In honor of Veterans Day, David Martin takes us to a very special reunion.
Joe Dan.
Hey, how are you doing?
How are you?
We first met Joe Dan Worley in 2004.
20 years.
20 years. 20 long years. Hard earned.
Along with his mother, wife, and a 3-month-old daughter at Walter Reed Medical Center outside Washington.
When I hit the ground, I was purely convinced that my entire body was just ravaged. That I was dead.
A medic rushing to the aid of wounded Marines in Iraq, he was hit by a roadside bomb. His left leg blown off, his right riddled with bullets.
Our life is just turned upside down.
It wasn't just Joe Dan's grievous wounds. The cost of moving to Washington to be with him had drained the family's savings. They didn't even have enough for the baby's winter clothes.
There's an angel that just walked in the door, and she just sat down and started talking to all of us and just wrote out a check and handed it to the kids.
That angel was sent by Karen Guenther.
I believe God just put me in the right place at the right time.
An ICU nurse at Camp Pendleton, California, when the wounded started coming in.
I was standing next to a young spouse, and she was about 18 years old. And her husband, he was very disfigured. And she looked at him, and her knees started to buckle. So I sort of held her and whispered in her ear, and I said, "You've got this, you can do this." And just experiencing that changed everything.
As a nurse, you must have had experience dealing with traumatic injuries. What was different about this?
This was so personal, and the number of injuries that we saw coming back, the severity of the injuries coming back, were historic.
Many of them coming back from the all-out battle for the insurgent stronghold of Fallujah.
We saw the families coming from all across the country to be by their son or daughter's bedside. They were leaving their jobs, leaving their homes, but yet they still had to have a car payment and a mortgage, and they just simply couldn't do it. So that's when we started the fund.
She called it the Semper and America's Fund.
I didn't know anything about starting a nonprofit, so I went to Barnes & Noble and I bought every book I could on nonprofits.
Nonprofits for Dummies?
Nonprofits for Dummies was my very first book.
That Battle of Fallujah raged for 7 weeks.
Fallujah, it was overwhelming. At that time, we did not have much money in the bank, enough to take care of the number of wounded coming back.
Until the public met Joe Dan Worley on 60 Minutes.
I worry all the time about being able to take care of my family now, and wondering what the future's going to hold.
If that piece hadn't run, we would not have had the funds to take care of the families.
To date, the Semper Fi Fund has given $500 million to 33,000 service members and their families. Not just Marines, but all the armed services.
So at the beginning, we were focused at the bedside.
I hope that this will help you out with some of your expenses.
Sure does, thank you.
The real work started when our service members went home.
What are the problems that develop over time?
If you come back and you're quadriplegic, or you're a triple amputee, or even a single amputee, there's a life cycle of recovery. And these young men and women would need us for the rest of their lives.
It was a really rough patch.
Joe Dan Worley was walking, but still wounded. His marriage to Angel was on the rocks.
Something had to change or we weren't going to make it.
Well, that would have been a real shame.
Yeah, it would have. I think what made us work is we didn't give up on each other at the same time.
Oh man, I can't wait till those separate.
There are not many marriages that make it through what we've made it through.
There you go, Joe. Get it.
He started working out with a vengeance, and their family kept growing.
I always forget it's not normal.
That's Abby, now 20, who turned 1 while her father was still at Walter Reed. She has a sister and 2 brothers.
Thanks for joining us. We have a great show for you today. Our guest,
Joe Dan supplements his disability benefits by co-hosting a podcast for the American Legion.
If you did not have access to a full uniform, would you?
Even so, a caseworker from Semper Fi checks in once a month.
for 20 years. They're always there. Like, we know if we really, truly needed anything, we could ask.
Would you call yourself happy today?
Yes, yes. I always tell people, if you can make it through the hard times, what's on the other side is so much better. It's so worth it. Life is so good. We are so blessed.
Are all your stories success stories?
They're not. Our warriors are proud and strong and courageous, but sometimes they wear a mask and they don't allow others to see how much pain they're going through or the brain damage from blasts and concussion injuries.
Do you have people who lose their marriages?
We do, especially our catastrophic injuries. Oftentimes, right after the injury, the families, their adrenaline's going, I can do this. I'm gonna stay by my husband or wife's side, but as the years go on, it can be very tough on marriages.
Living on the outskirts of Atlanta, the Worley family is rich in the things that matter, with a pet pig on the side.
Yo, big girl. There you go.
But Joe Dan will never be free of Fallujah. For the 20th anniversary of the battle, he's turned to music.
This is my song that is for my guys that got killed while I was over there.
Corporal Ebert.
I'm carrying these people in my heart. Not on my back, but in my heart.
I shall always remain faithful. Semper Fi. I love you.
The ballad of Joe Dan is full of sorrow, but the life he has made is full of purpose.
The body probably could have done without a traumatic amputation, but I really love what I've grown into.